Hello everyone. Hi, this is Munish. You're watching Crimetak English, and I welcome all of you to Crimetak family. And I hope everyone in this family is doing well and fine. Now, from last few days, we are talking about Maharashtra. What is happening with Parambir Singh, his allegations against the former Home Minister Anil Deshmukh, what is happening with Sachin Waze's case, what is happening in the current government, that is NCP, Shiv Sena, and Congress, and what is happening with the Bharatiya Janata Party, the opposition party in Maharashtra. But I thought it will be interesting for you to know few of them. And because I know few of them personally, especially Mr. Parambir Singh, because I know him from last 10 to 11 years, I thought that I should share my experience, that how he is in a real life, how he is as a human being, and how he is as an officer, because this understanding is very important for us. So I thought I will share my experience about Parambir Singh. So Parambir Singh is a 1988 batch IPS officer. He was inducted in Maharashtra police in the early 90s when the underworld was, they were ruling the tinsel town, Mumbai. And at that point of time, there were squads formed by Parambir Singh. I'll talk about it later and how he eliminated the members of underworld. Several other stories, but especially my favorite one, because as a crime reporter, you happen to develop a personal bonding with the investigators, with the officers, because sometimes what happens, and I am giving you a brief background of what a relationship between a crime journalist and a policeman, especially the investigator, can be. So it happens that most of the time journalists get to access certain information which might be helpful to the investigators, and the journalist gives that information to the investigators in exchange of stories, because journalists like me are very greedy of stories. And when you start giving these stories, the information to the investigators, and they give you some stories, some documents, then a bonding happens. So what happened, my friends, and I'll start with the drug case. In a very simple way, I'll put it out. It was 2016, year 2016, month of April, and if I'm not wrong, it was 28th or 29th of April 2016. The Thane police had registered a case against Mamta Kulkarni, her rumored husband Vicky Goswami, and it was a case of a lot of gravity, because a drug case naming a former, you can say yesteryear Bollywood bombshell Mamta Kulkarni as a prime accused in the case, drug lord Vicky Goswami, and total amount was more than 2,000 crore. So every journalist was interested in that story. And what happened, my friend, is that sometimes we get lucky. I was, I think, lucky among them. And when Parambir Singh took a press conference and he named Mamta Kulkarni, then as a journalist, my prime responsibility was to trace Mamta Kulkarni, find out what she has to say, and then, report to my organization. Then I was working with Aaj Tak India Today. I still work with the same organization. So, what happened after the press conference? The police, I inquired with the police department. Parambir Singh was then the Thane police commissioner. So I spoke to my sources. I asked whether I can get Mamta Kulkarni's number. The police said that they do not have Mamta Kulkarni's current number, and they don't even know where Mamta Kulkarni is at that point of time. So what happened, my friends, is that I started contacting different sources, and one of my sources, and this I have not told to anyone, even my bosses, one of my sources in Bollywood, that person was in touch with Mamta Kulkarni. So what he told me that I will speak to Mamta Kulkarni, and if she agrees to talk to you, then I'll share your number, she will call. Next day, he called me and said, she is not willing to speak to you. I said, but I want to speak to her. Then I started pressurizing. I met him in the evening, again next morning. And then I said, just give me the number, nothing else. I'll speak to her. I'll try to convince. And I will not do anything which is unethical. So don't worry about it. So first day I gave a call to Mamta Kulkarni. It was morning, I think 26th or 27th of April 2016. And the moment she received my call, I said, hi, this is Munish from Aaj Tak India Today. I want to talk to you about the allegations made by Thane Police Commissioner Parambir Singh against you, your possible involvement in a drug syndicate. She heard and disconnected the call after saying hello. But I am a journalist. I was running behind this story. So again, I called Mamta Kulkarni, and Mamta Kulkarni took the call, and she gave me the interview. So I was the first journalist in India to get interview of Mamta Kulkarni after she was named as accused in a drug case. And at that point of time, she was in Kenya. So I've got that interview also. This ran on Aaj Tak also, and this ran on India Today also. So I'll just play that interview. You will have a basic understanding that how it was.
Okay. A few years ago, speaking exclusively to India
I think
Today,
you can
Mamta Kulkarni
hear
broke
it.
her silence on allegations of drug smuggling against her husband. Take a look.
पहला सवाल आपसे ये है कि थाने पुलिस से दावा कर रही कि आप जो ड्रग सिंडिकेट उन्होंने बस्ट किया हुआ उसकी पार्ट हैं, क्या कहना है इस पे आपका?
नहीं, आपको मैं थोड़ा पीछे लेके जाना चाहूंगी आपको
जी।
आपको मालूम है कि 6 महीने पहले भी कोई ऐसी चीज आ गई थी केन्या के अंदर की ऐसा ड्रग है और अमेरिका ने पकड़ा है और उसको अंदर डाला है और काफी लोगों के चेहरे टीवी पे दिखाए गए थे स्टार एबीपी न्यूज पे
जी।
तो 6 महीने पहले भी यही चीज हो गई थी कि केन्या में पकड़ा है, यूनाइटेड नेशन में पकड़ा है। तो आप सोचो यूनाइटेड नेशन अगर किसी को सीरियस क्राइम में पकड़ता है तो
So this was the interview basically. I'll play some part later, and on the screen you can see me on the other side, and
मनोज जैन, किशोर राठौड़ और जयमुख, ये 3 लोग थे जिन्होंने विकी गोस्वामी से मुलाकात की।
मेरी कोई मीटिंग इन लोगों के साथ नहीं हुई है।
it was a detailed interview. It was a detailed interview of Mamta Kulkarni, and I was the first one to get it. Here comes the main part of story. So DCP crime at that point of time in Thane police was Mr. Parag Manere. He is still DCP. Now he is in Mumbai. EOWD is DCP. So Parag Manere gave me a call. And I still remember I was crossing, from Vikroli, I was going to Bhandup in Mumbai. So I was on one of the bridges, and I got a call. I was going to Thane police only, but I was in between Vikroli and Bhandup. So, I got a call from Parag Manere, DCP crime branch, and he called me and asked that I have seen an interview of yours with Mamta Kulkarni. Please give me the number of Mamta Kulkarni. And the way he said कि वो इंटरव्यू किया ना ममता कुलकर्णी का, उसका नंबर भेज दो मुझे. I didn't like his tone. I said, why should I give you her number? He said, आपने एक अक्यूज का इंटरव्यू किया हुआ है, ये सही नहीं है, आपको उनका नंबर देना पड़ेगा. So basically you have done an interview of an accused, so you have to give the number. I said, there is no rule that if I have done an interview of an accused, I have to provide the number to you. You are a police officer, you should get the number. Then he started threatening me with the notice कि मैं आपको नोटिस भेज दूंगा अगर आपने नंबर नहीं दिया तो. I said, please send me the notice and then only now I will give the number. So this was the conversation with Mr. Parag Manere. It was not on a good note, and no, I, as a reporter, I am not someone who will, who will not respect a police officer. But the tone of that person or that officer should be, uh, it should be like you are talking to a reporter. It is not like you are ordering a reporter. That cannot happen. We also ask favors from policemen. We ask for stories, but we have to request the police officer. We cannot order a police officer. It has to be the same way when a police officer is asking for any help, and that is how we have maintained relationship. So I didn't like the tone, and then later on when I reached the Thane police, outside, when I was just outside the Thane police commissioner office, I got a call from Parambir Singh. And Mr. Parambir Singh, as a commissioner, he called me and said ki, Munish, hi, how are you? And after the initial talks, उन्होंने बोला कि यार वो पराग को हेल्प कर दो केस में. I said, sir, I'm more than willing to help, but the problem is he's threatening me with the notice. So if he wants to threaten me with the notice, then he is more than happy to send me a legal notice, and then I'll give the number. उन्होंने बोला अरे तुम परेशान मत हो, come to office. And then he called me to his office, and he called Parag also. Parag Manere, DCP. He called Parag Manere in his office, and he ordered a tea. The tea came, and he said, as a reporter, your job is to find a story, but your job is also to make sure that a crime is solved. And he also told Parag Manere that as an investigator, it is your responsibility to solve a crime, and whatever it takes to solve a crime, you should go any length. And I think you both should now sit together, talk about this case, and see how this can be investigated, how we can reach out to Mamta Kulkarni. So it was a good conversation, and after conversation, me and Parag Manere, we both became friends. और मैंने उनको वही बोला पराग मनेरे को कि सर आप मेरे से बोलते ना कि भाई ममता कुलकर्णी का नंबर दे दो, मुझे नंबर देने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आप मुझसे बस सही तरीके से आप बात करो. बस मुझे टोन अच्छा नहीं लगा आपका, बाकी मुझे हेल्प करने में कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. सो दिस वॉज परमवीर सिंह. He wanted a crime to be solved, and later on he insisted that I should give the number to Parag Manere, and this was his way. Over a cup of over a cup of tea, me and Parag Manere became a friend, and then we started working on the case together. So later on, I happened to did many stories on that Thane drug case. I would also like to show you. This was the clip.
एसटीएफ की मदद से उसको अरेस्ट किया था, काफी अच्छा कार्य किया था.
And this was the press conference by Mr. Parambir Singh. This you can see.
और विटनेसेस के बयान के हिसाब से मैं आप लोगों से आज शेयर करना चाहूंगा.
देखिए, here he takes the name of Mamta Kulkarni.
हमारे पास नई एविडेंस आई है, नए बयान आए हैं, उसके आधार पर ममता कुलकर्णी भी हमारे केस में एक आरोपी है.
So this is what happened, and later on, I also did an interview of Vicky Goswami. So Vicky Goswami, this is the interview of Vicky Goswami. Just give me a second, I will show you the interview. So this was the interview with Vicky Goswami, and I'll tell you later.
They have arrested 7 people, and after investigation of these things and after reports from DEA, they have concluded Vicky Goswami is one of the wanted accused in this case, and he was the kingpin of the entire drug syndicate.
So this was the interview of with Vicky Goswami. I'll share what Vicky Goswami said in the interview.
I have done. I have saw it in net, and which I forwarded to you, which they themselves, the company is talking to the stakeholders. So where do I come in the picture? You tell me.
So it was a long interview. It was almost a 40 minutes interview. And why it was big? Because till date, I am the only journalist in world to interview Vicky Goswami. And that point of time when this Thane case was going on, the DEA, the FBI, all of them came and they were interested in Vicky Goswami because they wanted to take Vicky Goswami to US, and later on he was arrested from Kenya. So it's a different story. I will share that story later. But after this Thane case, what I realized that as an investigator, Mr. Parambir Singh, by hook or crook, he will try to solve a case, and that is what he did in drug case. Finally, FBI got Vicky Goswami through Mr. Parambir Singh sitting in Thane. FBI got Vicky Goswami in Kenya, and he was taken to US. So FBI officers, DEA officers, they came from US to Thane. They were sitting in Thane, and Parambir Singh was running the show. So as an investigator, I think that Parambir Singh has done some fantastic job. So this was a very good personal experience of mine with Mr. Parambir Singh. And about Parambir Singh, I would like to tell you that in 1990s, when the underworld was ruling the Tinsel town Mumbai, and then this 1988 batch officer, he joined as a DCP. And under him, he formed two squads, special squads, and they were tasked to eliminate the members of underworld, because in 1990s, Arun Gavli gang, Chota Rajan gang, Daud Ibrahim gang, they were the big headache for Mumbai police. Law and order was bad. There were threatening calls, hafta wasuli calls. So all these things were happening, and it was Mr. Parambir Singh who put a curb on these underworld dons and their members. So if I'm not wrong, that point of time, Praful Bhosle, Vijay Salaskar, Pradeep Sharma, they were the one who basically emerged as an encounter specialist, and it was only because of senior officers of Mumbai police, Thane police, they were guiding them in a right direction, and Mr. Parambir Singh was one of them. So he is among few officers in Mumbai who were able to put a curb on underworld in 1990s. Later on, he was given charge of anti-Naxals operation in Gadchiroli. There he did a fantastic job. He was in Mumbai police, Thane police, and other parts of Maharashtra in different capacity, but always an officer who was accessible to everyone. And in the meantime, what happened with Parambir Singh was that he was liked by his fellow officers. One special thing about Parambir Singh was that he was not a person who liked a protocol. For example, if there is a police inspector rank officer or API rank officer, and if the officer is investigating the case, a sensitive crime case, then there was no protocol with Parambir Singh. That the protocol is basically, if you are PI or API, then you have to inform the senior PI, then ACP, the DCP will take a call, then the joint CP, and then the joint CP will inform the commissioner. But with Parambir Singh, what was special was even a lower rank officer can directly call Parambir Singh. It happens very limited number of times, but as far as my knowledge goes, that if the officer is good, then there was a direct line between Parambir Singh. Parambir Singh can directly call the police officer, the junior police officer, and the junior police officer was also allowed to call back Mr. Parambir Singh. It happens rarely in Maharashtra police or any state police, but this is what I have seen. Now, apart from that, when he was Thane police commissioner, I told you the story of this drug case, but in 2017, Daud Ibrahim's brother, Iqbal Kaskar, was arrested by the Thane police. And why, my friends, I tell you, it was a big deal. It was a big deal because, for any officer to put a hand on the collar of Dawood Ibrahim's brother was a big deal, because it was an indication that the time of underworld has gone. And it was during the tenure of Parambir Singh that Iqbal Kaskar was arrested by the Thane police. And when he was, Mumbai police commissioner, we have seen many controversies. I don't know what is true. I don't know whether Parambir Singh was aware of what Sachin Vose was up to. But many officers who know Parambir Singh, what they claim, that if Parambir Singh starts a battle, then he will fight the battle till the time it is not over. And now the battle is between Parambir Singh and former Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. Parambir Singh's statement has been recorded by the Central Bureau of Investigation. I am told by my sources in the Central Bureau of Investigation that he has once again said that Mr. Anil Deshmukh used to call Sachin Vase, asked him to extort rupees 100 crore every month, and he has also provided some evidence in the form of screenshot, mobile screenshot, text message screenshot. So what will happen next, I don't know. As of now, Parambir Singh is an officer who I have known from 10-11 years. These were my experience with Parambir Singh. If at all anything happens, I don't know the inside story of, whether Parambir Singh is right at this point of time or whether he is wrong. But whatever happens, I will share my experience. I will share that information with you. Thank you so much for watching this.